We're going to go ahead and get started. So welcome. If you didn't hear me this morning or you don't know me, I'm Steve Hoskins, current president of Missouri APCO. I'm talking in the microphone camera, so maybe if everybody else stops talking, they can hear me.
Whoa!
And then to my left is the current president of Missouri Mina.
Thank you. So, I think I met some of you this morning, but some may have just came into this meeting, so we're going to do some introductions here in just a second. But my name is Sonny Saxton. I'm the current Missouri National Emergency Members Association president. So should we just pass the microphone down and let everybody introduce themselves? Yeah. Okay.
Vine Schulte, I'm the first vice president of Missouri Mina.
Hi, I'm Sarah Lynn Hayes, and I am the secretary of Missouri Mina and also the Northwest Regional Ambassador for Missouri APCO.
Hi, my name is Angie Superman. I am the central ambassador for APCO.
I'm Jamie Taylor, second vice president from Mina.
Hi, I'm Lisa McClure, the treasurer of Missouri Mina.
Stephen Cordy, and I am the APCO representative to the state island.
I know a lot of people trust the mic now. Just saying. Is there any other?
Hi, I'm J.R. Webb. I'm the Vice President of the Missouri Chapter of APCO.
Cheryl Konarski, treasurer of APCO.
Zach Dykes, Secretary and Technical Committee Chair of MOAPCO.
Something like that. Andy Bailey, Southwest Region Ambassador, Missouri APCO.
Matthew Knight, I'm your Missouri Mina and Missouri APCO commercial advisor.
Roger Workman, Missouri APCO Executive Council representative.
All right, Sonny's going to be afraid to touch the mic now. People have touched it.
So we got a couple. Yes.
So just to let everybody know how this is going to operate, we're actually running this kind of together, but we have two separate business sessions for Missouri Mina and Missouri APCO. So we're going to turn it over to Sonny and Bonnie for Missouri Mina.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Can you hear me okay? I'm not talking too loud. Okay. So I do have a couple of guests that I'd like to recognize. So first off, we have from Daryl from the North Central Region Director, current National Mina. So just we're going to turn the mic over to him in a few minutes here. Yeah, so help me welcome him. So Daryl's going to help us with a couple of things coming up in just a minute, so we'll hear from him. Also, I just wanted to recognize, although I'm going to kind of point him out here, and that's Buster Brown. He's past president of National Mina, and so we appreciate having one of our past presidents in the house, so thank you very much. We appreciate that. Okay, so I think we'll start with, many of you may know that I've been around Missouri for a little while. However, I'm submitting my resignation, and so I've got just a couple of things I'd like to read to you real quick, and then we'll move on. So today I announced my resignation as president of our association. That would be the Missouri National Emergency Member Association. After nearly 25 years, I've retired from my roles with public safety in Missouri. It has been one of my greatest privileges to work alongside you in pursuit of the goal to enhance 911 service in Missouri. I am very, very thankful for the many hours spent in support of our organization and members, and that's the time that you have spent, and so I'm very thankful for that. Over the past 2 years, we've seen the signing of the law of the House Bill 1456 and Senate Bill 291. With these transformative pieces of legislation, Missouri took great strides forward in the coordination of statewide efforts for 911 service. For the first time ever, the Missouri 911 Service Trust Fund and most counties will now have a stable source of funding for 911 projects. We'll talk about what that means here in a little bit, but stable meaning in perpetuity, okay? So there was a sunshine on some of that has been removed, so thanks to the efforts of the colleagues you see in front of you here today. We've also seen Missouri Mina grow their engagement and service to members. Scholarship programs have been put into place to sustain the learning opportunities for new and existing members of the association. And then I just want to mention our partnership with our 911 organization and stakeholders in Missouri, sitting here with us today. It's been strengthened through the partnership and participation of the Missouri Public Safety Communications Conference, and that's the committee that helps put this type of education program together. And so I just wanted to mention how much I feel like in the last couple of years when I look through the work that these individuals have done, really they've strengthened the MPSCC and have really made it a premier offering in the Midwest. We're getting a lot of notice in many states around us. And so just know that the product these guys are putting together is pretty remarkable. And all these successes have been made possible to the work of our executive board as well as our colleagues. And today I'm going to leave the future in their very capable hands. I can't wait to hear about your many successes to come. So with that, I would ask that my resignation be accepted. And I'll turn the meeting over to Bonnie Mitchell.
Okay, we'll need a motion to approve Sunny's resignation.
What are they gonna do if they say no?
Wait, I'm packing up now.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept it.
Thank
Have a
you.
motion from Cheryl, need a second?
Matt Knight will second.
Have a second from Matt Knight, any discussion? Seeing no discussion, we'll vote on the motion. All those in favor of accepting Sunny's resignation, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. All right, so with that, I think that, the bylaws will say that the first vice president moves up to the president's position, and then the second vice president will move up to the first vice president's position. So with that, myself and Jamie will be assuming those positions, and Daryl is going to install us at this time. It doesn't matter. We're going to like that.
That's the microphone. Oh, where's the camera? That's why. Okay. It should get on.
Please answer I will at the conclusion of each of the following statements. As an officer of the Missouri chapter of Mina, I pledge to promote Mina's goal, one nation, one number, and to bear true allegiance to the objectives of this organization.
I will.
To preserve, protect, and adhere to the bylaws of the Missouri chapter of the National Emergency Number Association.
I will.
To conduct myself professionally when representing Mina and its membership, and to honestly and faithfully execute the duties and responsibilities of my office.
I will.
Before this gathering of your peers, you have accepted the responsibilities inherent in your elected offices. I hereby declare that you are duly sworn officers of the Missouri chapter of the National Emergency Number Association until such time as the spring 2020 elections. Congratulations.
So with that, I just do want to say that, I take this responsibility very seriously, and I believe in communication, and I believe in making sure that I'm representing what you as a group want. So definitely know that we'll be sending out things and communicating with you, but if you have needs, let us know as a board, because we want to meet those needs and we want to meet your expectations. Also with that, it does leave a second vice president position open within Mina. So if anyone is interested in fulfilling that position as an appointed position until the time that it will be up for election, which will be in the spring, please contact one of the board members and put your name in for that. We would love to have your participation. If we don't get anyone who is interested in that position, we will just wait until the time of election, and then we'll do that in the springtime, and we'll seek nominations at that time, just so you kind of know how that's working. With that is all I have as the president's report, so we'll go on to the secretary's report. Sarah Lynn.
Hi there, we had emailed the draft meeting summary from our March membership meeting out to the members. There are also draft copies over here. If you would be interested in a copy, it's gripping, it really is. If you have any questions, suggestions, corrections, please let me know. Anyone?
We'll need a motion to approve. Someone?
I'll make the motion to approve the current minutes.
I'll second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Just a couple of other things. If you did not have your badge scanned when you came in, please do so over there. Thank you. Because that's how, instead of having written sign-in sheets, that's how we're kind of keeping track of who's here with us. And also, as Bonnie mentioned, our spring elections will be announced at the conference, but to kind of back out, we'll send out a nomination request in January, and that will be for the president, second vice president, and treasurer position. They're on even years, and then on the odd years are first vice president and secretary. So look for those. You can nominate yourself. Someone else can nominate you. We do have a nominations committee that it goes through. You have to be a member of Mina and to be on the board or to have a nomination accepted. And so definitely encourage you to learn more about the association, learn more about the duties of each position. And if you're interested in being involved, we would love to have you. So just seek out any board member if you have any questions at all. Thank you.
All right, we'll go on to the treasurer's report with Lisa.
Our total funds.
Oh, hold on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We did.
The total funds for Missouri Mina accounts are $30,123.20. The benevolence fund contains $2,721.30. So that leaves the total Mina funds of $27,401.87. We had an income last month of $200 for the fair food reimbursement from the Missouri Directors Association. We emailed out the proposed budget for the 2020 year for board consideration. We also have the bank statements available and the reconciliations available if anyone would like to see those.
So any questions on the treasurer's report? And anyone who would like a copy emailed to them, or if they want the proposed budget emailed to them, you'll just let one of us know. We'd definitely be glad to get it out there for you. If there's no questions, I'd entertain a motion to approve the treasurer's report.
I'll make a motion.
Cheryl's made the motion.
I'll second.
Second from Jamie. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Scholarship report, Jamie.
One of my duties as the second vice president when I was there was to handle the Leon Harden Scholarship for Mina. If you're not aware, the Missouri chapter of Mina, we established a scholarship program that honors the commitment of Leon Harden, who was a longtime member of Mina. So we do have a scholarship available. This is available for the spring conference in 2020 to be held at Margaritaville, Pantera. So if you are interested, you could reach out to any of the board members and we'll get you a nomination form to be passed out. And there's some stuff you have to do, such as an essay, 200-word essay. The scholarship itself will pay for 3 nights lodging and parking, but not to exceed $500. So it's a pretty good sized scholarship.
So, we always have trouble getting people to apply for that scholarship. In the last 2 years, the first year we had to beg and plead, and last year we only had, I think, 1 submission. So definitely try to take advantage of that. It's an opportunity, where your conference is going to pretty much be paid for. So I encourage you to take that up. With that, I think we will move on to a national Mina update. Here.
Go right ahead.
So it's really big print, so the 7 pages that I have will go really fast. So first and foremost, Sonny, congratulations on your retirement from Missouri. Good luck to you. For those that don't know, I've already contacted the Northeast Region Director from National, as well as the Virginia Chapter President. Sonny is not going away from me. So we'll see to that. So some exciting times at National. I will be very quick. I know you're on a time schedule. I think they said free food and open bar. So I will get out of your way quickly. But the 2020 conference is going to be upon us before we know it.
Long Beach, California. That'll be from June 13th through the 18th, 2020. Try to make the reservations. Get out there, have a good time. Calls and papers will be coming up this month, and registration will be opening up soon. The NG Standards and Best Practice Conference will be held January 20th through the 23rd in Austin, Texas. That'll be followed by the Critical Issues Forum. The Critical Issues Forum is looking at wellness issues related to what we have going on within ourselves. How do we help our peers? How do we help our coworkers? What do we need to do to make a difference to make us better capable of handling different incidents? With that, you have a celebrity in the room. Pam is doing her piece tomorrow in room B/C at 12:30, as well as Wednesday at 9 a.m. in B and C. This is on the peer support portions. So you're very lucky to have a person right in your backyard that's trying to help out at the national level. They do have some survey stuff that will be posted. Zach, I think you got volunteered to add some stuff to the website. She said you wouldn't say no. But it's also listed on the bulletin that gets sent out by Chris Nussman from National, as well as on national sites. So please take a minute to look through that. 911 Goes to Washington will be in February the 11th through the 14th this year. I can't tell you a lot about it. I've not attended one myself. I'm told it's a great time to learn more about the organization, learn more about the legislation, and become more involved. Somebody told me I should stop.
Kind of like what they do at the academies, right? You just hear the music.
So the 911 Saves Act, get behind it, call your legislators. There's been over 30,000 calls that have been placed so far in support of this. It's about everybody in this room, everybody you work with. The reclassification to be a responder rather than a cleric is huge. It shows our professionalism and dedication. So for the techie folks, version 3 of the I3 standard is out for NG 911. That should be done by the end of the calendar year. As soon as version 3 is done, third iteration, version 4 will start. So a constant progression for the NG stuff. The PSAP credentialing agency is getting its launch probably end of this year, beginning of next year. For the techie folks in the room, that establishes a root of trust for the NG networks so that we know we can reach out to a PSAP and it truly is that PSAP. And I may get hung up with all the bad juju and the Internet of Things. My non-techie explanation.
I thought that was pretty good.
So there's about $12.8 billion, $12 billion of grant program monies that the feds are looking at putting out to fund NG projects. So that's going through the House already in a start, and the Senate is looking at a little bit different verbiage for their portion of it, and we're hoping that continues to move forward. As we sit here today, location accuracies are still at the forefront, both organizations, APCO and Mina. The Z-axis is very important to find that in-building locations of the callers. Big pushes from your leadership locally for Carey's Law and Ray Baum's Act. If you're not familiar with the Carey's Law, please take a little bit of time to do some internet searching. But as I understand it from a little pre-meeting earlier, there'll be a bunch of information and locations for that information to be sent out to you statewide. Take advantage of that. I'm going to tell you that I've recently learned more information about Carey's Law, and it's really interesting to see how we can help save a life with just following one simple act, not requiring a prefix on a multi-line telephone system. So check into that, your PSAPs. More to come on that. There's a compliance date of February 16, 2020. I don't know that they're going to have a Carey's Law police that are going to come out and make sure that everyone's compliant, but let's beat them to the punch. The PSAP registry, Nina launched the new enhanced PSAP registry and census. That's a modern GIS cloud platform that'll be out there. You'll be able to look up different agencies, or you may be able to click on a map location to bring up the PSAP information from there. Under education and training, The Excellence in Dispatch Certificate is something new that if a participant or a student attends 3 of 5 trainings, will meet the criteria within 2 years. If they attended advanced fire and EMS dispatching, advanced police dispatching, enhanced caller management, 911 customer service, or preventing telecommunicator tunnel vision, 3 of those 5 will earn them the Excellence in Dispatch certification. Remember, that's over a 2-year period. The Wednesday webinars will start up. That's free for your membership. You are a member, you can do it. You don't have to be on it on a Wednesday. They're archived, play it later. Send the link out to the folks in your PSAP, share that information. A new initiative is Women in 911 Alliance. This started at National in Orlando this past year. It really is a great push and has a lot of backing for women and their professionalism and advancement in 911. If you haven't had a time or an opportunity to take advantage of that, please do. It's a good piece of information. Again, we mentioned the wellness initiative. Make sure you look at your local initiatives, especially with your peer support, especially with those questionnaires. They're looking at 4 surveys over 24 months, I believe, right? 15 minutes per survey. In our lives, 15 minutes is nothing. So let's help them figure out how to better help us. Thank you to 911. The hashtag Thank You 911 was really instrumental. It raised $20,000 for scholarships for attendance at National. But I think you need to listen to your board about the grant monies for opportunities for your folks to attend your state conference as well. I can tell you I live in Illinois, and our participation for those grant applications is minimal. But the people that go, and they're the first timers and they come back, they get so much from everyone in the room like you. And that's huge. HQ update, what I will tell you in my last 12 seconds as they expire, because I've been watching, is we don't realize the tools and the backing that we have from our national staff office. I had quite a bit of opportunity the last couple of weeks to deal with them, to work with them, more importantly, to learn from them. They are so possessive of their work. They have a passion that drives them to be successful. Their knowledge is surpassed by no one. So be very thankful of that. 2 additions that came on at the national level are Brandon Abley. He's a technical issues director, so the PSAP directory stuff. A lot of us are just a sharp young man. And April Hines was added to the staff as a PSAP and 911 operations director. So great additions to the team. That's my quick report of the girl. It was really 12 pages. I'm very honored to be here with you folks today. I made a promise to be here. I fulfilled it. And I look forward to the next one. So thank you all.
All right, we will go ahead and move on to the APCO portion.
Some of you may wonder why we're doing this in kind of a joint fashion like that, and that's because a lot of us are members of both associations. So if you're here and you're a member of both Missouri APCO and Missouri NINA, raise your hand. So you can see there's a lot of the same people, so it kind of makes sense to do this way. So one thing before that we kind of forgot to do, Sheriff Cordy obviously is here. He's a representative to the State 911 Board. Lisa's here. Lisa, wave at everybody so they'll know there. And I don't think we missed anybody else from the board. Alan, yeah, you snuck in the back. Alan's here, hiding in the corner like he usually does. He's like a ninja director. And then, does anybody have any special guests with them, any commissioners or anything like that with us that we wanted to recognize and say thanks for being here? Okay, very good. All right, President's report. A couple of things that we're kind of working on, and just so you'll kind of know where we're going as we go forward in the future. Some of the things that Missouri APCO has discussed on our board that we would like to see as we go forward are things that we want to do to help support Lisa and Sheriff Cordy and Alan and other members of the 911 board and helping them as they move forward. They have got a humongous task in front of them The workload that's been put on that board is just absolutely tremendous. And anybody attend any of the meetings where we travel around the state and talk to people about the regional coordination centers? I know Alan traveled a lot. Alan actually was the chair of that subcommittee and really did yeoman's work in getting that taken care of. And so that was a lot of road miles, a lot of work. But that's the kind of thing that the State 911 Board is doing, because we are truly blessed at this point that in Missouri we actually have a functional State 911 Board that's going to have some authority to do some things, some funding to make them happen. And I know Lisa, one of her passions has always been the training component, and that's one of the things that we at Missouri APCO want to support. That we need to redo those training standards, and then try and find ways that we can help fund some of that. Because as most of you probably know, smaller agencies and some of the less populous counties, you could give them free training, and they just don't have the money to pay somebody else to cover the console while that person goes to the free training. And so we've got to figure out a way as a state to find ways that we can get that quality training to everybody, because everybody in this profession deserves that. They need it, and we want to get it to them. And so if you have ideas on how to make that kind of thing happen, come and talk to, whether it's the Missouri NENA Board or the Missouri APCO Board, come talk to us, because we want to talk to you. We want to look at some of those. And I know Lisa would be more than happy to field suggestions in regards to training, because that is definitely one of her passions. I've known her for a while, and that's always been there at the forefront. I think from the very first formation of the 911 Directors Association, because she was the initial president of that association. So one of the things we talked about was training, and the legislation was important, but training was right up there with it. We want to move forward with that. So Missouri APCO has a scholarship for the spring conference. I'm going to let JR talk about that.
Yep. Much like our colleagues at Mina, we have a scholarship for the spring conference. It's all inclusive, pays for everything except for transportation to the conference. And very shortly, if you're interested in applying for that scholarship, you'll be able to find that application on the MOAPCO website, courtesy of our technical committee, Mr. Zach. Again, if you have any questions about it, please contact any of the board members and we will help you out.
All right, next we'll move on to the Secretary's report. Zach.
Okay, as of yesterday, our total membership is 534. It's no change from our July meeting. However, let's get this. We got new members. We got 16 new members between July and yesterday. So what's going on is we're starting to expire. Our membership's starting to expire. So membership dues renew on December 31st. If you're a member of Missouri APCO, please renew your membership. That way you continue to get your benefits. I think that's all I got.
Okay.
Do we need to accept your minutes from
Oh, yes, and the minutes. Sorry.
July?
So on the board, there should be minutes. If you haven't seen them, I emailed them out last week about Wednesday or Thursday. I also have 3 printed copies here, so feel free to take them. It's riveting information, to echo Sarah Lynn over there. So it's, do we have any need to go super in depth to it?
All right, so the chair will entertain a motion to approve both the Secretary's report and the minutes from the previous meeting.
Roger, so moved.
Okay.
Matt will second that motion.
Motion by Roger and second by Matt. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that passes. All right, Cheryl, Treasurer's report.
Okay, thank you. Let me get over here real quick.
I went ahead and combined it from last March because I wasn't able to be in the July meeting. I was stuck in Florida for an extra couple of days, so I wasn't able to do that report. So our report, we started out with a balance as of last March of $78,734.69.
just to kind of mirror what Bonnie said earlier, Moaco is exactly like Monina, that we want to be totally transparent. And so if you want to see copies of the bank statements, et cetera, we're going to do that. There are several things that we're working on with the executive board to kind of improve things. One of the things that we thought of, just to kind of show you one of the things that we're looking at doing, is we're going to create a form so that if we use the association credit card for something, if we have the form, if the receipt gets lost, then we've still got the form to kind of show us an audit trail of what happens. So, because we have our expense reports, but that's what you're going to turn in if you're going to get reimbursed. And if we're using the association credit card, we're not getting reimbursement. So it doesn't really make sense to use that form. So we're in the process of creating a new form. We want to improve our performance when it comes to the fiscal portion of this. One of the things that took place at the National APCO News this year, we had the president's meeting where we meet before the conference with all the presidents of the chapters that can make it, and had some discussion about some other chapters and some issues they had with their fiscal responsibilities and things where they just totally trusted somebody as their treasurer, and there really wasn't any kind of safeguards in place. And next thing you know, they found out that there was fraud, and it was quite serious. Took them a long time to get trust back from a variety of people. They did not recover all of the money that was taken, and the person who was their brother in this profession ended up being charged with a crime and then committed suicide before they could bring them to trial. And so all of that could have been prevented by being a little better at preparing how we do things. So that's something your board is committed to doing. So that being said, do you need a motion to approve the treasurer's report?
So moved.
I'll
Okay.
second.
All right. Jared motions and Zach seconds. Any discussion on the treasurer's report? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, it's approved. Roger, Executive Council.
At the August Executive Council meeting at National APCO, the primary discussion, like we discussed in March and in July, was on joint chapters of APCO and Mina. The Executive Council voted to return that to the APCO Board Executive Committee for further discussion and review before they send it back to the Executive Council. So we expect that we will hear something back on that next August. I don't believe they will be chartering any new joint chapters during that year. There were none planned. We went in and talked to several chapters that had talked about it in the past, and none were planned for this coming year. So should have plenty of time to discuss it. I believe they'll be looking for members of that task force to discuss it here shortly as they figure out, as they make the transition to the new president and the new board positions. Other than that, there wasn't a whole lot at the Executive Council meeting. We made several quorum changes that were just really administrative in nature, just making language changes so that the bylaws made sense. And those went through quite easily. The only one that was controversial at all was there was a motion to make online members. Many of you are group members and you have online members. We're going to make a motion to not allow them to hold board positions, but that was voted down by the quorum. So online members can still hold certain board positions in the state at the chapter level. The only ones that have to be full members are now going to be the secretary, the treasurer, and the president of a chapter. So that's what we've got exactly.
Thank you, Roger. That was another topic that we had a lot of discussion at the president's meeting in regard to there, and a lot of people brought forth a lot of good points, and one of the things that kind of, as we mentioned here earlier, a lot of us are members of both associations. One of the concerns that they had at the national level for APCO is there are some of those places where there are joint chapters where there are people who are on the boards, but they are not members of both associations. And so there was kind of some question about how can they vote on things that are binding for the APCO members of that chapter if they're not a member of APCO themselves. And so that, you know, I see that point, but there was also a lot of pushback simply because a lot of the chapters felt like that the national level, they were just pushing a little too hard on this and kind of taking away that decision-making capability from the states. And so because of that, as Roger said, it was tabled. They're going to come back and we'll kind of see what they come back with. In the meantime, any of you guys that have any opinion in regards to this, please let us know, because we want Roger to go back to that executive council meeting with an understanding of what we as our membership want as a state chapter, so that he'll be representing all of us and our wishes as we go forward. So thank you, Roger, for that, by the way. Technical committee, Zach.
Stand up so I'm not hidden by the tiny little camera. Okay, so we recently, and I say recently, Thursday, we joined Instagram. Woohoo, we're joining the millennials, of which I am one. So anyway, we've joined Instagram, so if you have the gram, I'm not saying that ever again, it's Moapco. That's our simple username, all lowercase, M-O-A-P-C-O, right? That's how you spell it. Yeah, Moapco. So as of last night, we had 19 new followers on there, so that's pretty good in a 3-day period to have 19 new followers from not just Missouri, but we're reaching Kansas APCO, we're reaching Florida APCO, we're reaching several other states worth of people. Our Facebook, we've got 705 followers there, which is an 88 follower rise from July. Twitter, we have 621 followers, which is 12 since July. And then another thing that we will be implementing is a YouTube channel. And no, we're not making funny videos. Like I said last meeting, we're not using TikTok because I don't really want to be trying to make funny videos on TikTok. But our YouTube is going to be the one location that you guys can go to view membership meetings. So right now, yeah, we're live streaming to Facebook, but I'm also recording a direct copy onto my computer. As soon as I get the chance, we're going to implement that and it'll be uploaded to YouTube. That way you guys can go see it afterwards. You don't have to have a Facebook access. A couple other things that we're going to look for is doing a multi-stream, to where we're not just streaming directly to Facebook, we can also stream to YouTube. That way if you've got Facebook locked down on your agency's computer but don't have YouTube, which I don't know, it's kind of contradictory, but they'll still be able to get onto YouTube and see that live stream. We'll also look at getting the actual YouTube feed attached to our website, so you can go to our website and see it. So that's all I got.
Go to the next item.
Okay.
It's YouTube.
So the next item is our special projects that we got, and we've got a lot. So first off is Christmas in July. I don't know if you guys follow us on Facebook or anything, but in the month of July, we had a chapter engagement project. We ran it through the technical committee. It's really a pro chart thing, but it worked. So through the month of July, agencies were encouraged to accept food and toy donations. We had several agencies participate, and Kennett PD, Rolla PD kicked it out of the park. Kennett in total collected over 2,000 items, not just not just food and toy items, but they collected bottles, diapers, and a bunch of other things. They got involved to the point where they had city councilmen and even their mayor said, if we hit a certain level, we'll accept a pie to the face. And guess what? They hit every level, so half their fire department, the mayor, and some city councilmen got pie to the face. That's pretty cool. Rolla PD also kicked it out of the park, and I don't know exact numbers, but it was over 800 total items. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I think it was 830 food, something like that. So all of those went back into their community. It didn't go to us. We didn't decide where it was going. The centers themselves got to choose which organization they submitted it back to. So, as winners, whatever you want to call them, they got a certificate of recognition from the Missouri chapter of APCO, and they also got a certain dollar amount food voucher for a party to celebrate. So, congratulations to Rolla, Kennett, and St. Joe PD was the large agency winner. Off the top of my head, I don't know what they did, but it was those 3 agencies were the winners. So congratulations to the 3 agencies that we got there. The next project that we got going, I'm actually going to turn it over to Roger because it's more of a pro chart thing, and I'm just a facilitator. So.
Okay. Well, International APCO Pro Chart Committee has been running a Teammates in Action recognition award program. I said the wrong word. Recognition program for the last year or so. So the board of Missouri APCO adopted that into our Pro Chart Committee this summer. It is recognition for I'm just a dispatcher. It's recognition for I was just doing my job, but you did it well, and it's worthy of recognition. So anyone can be nominated. It runs from telecommunicator to IT to manager, director. You nominate through an online process through our website. The regional ambassadors serve as our decision team, and they look at your nominations and they make decisions on when and who will be recognized. That recognition goes out over our website as well as our social media outlets. Also, when we have a recognition in Missouri, we automatically ship that to international APCO for recognition by Pro Chart at the international level. It's just a cool thing to get recognized. I mean, it's not an annual award. It is not, a whole formal thing. It is I did a good job, and by golly, you did a good job, and I want to tell you, you did a good job. So Missouri APCO is trying to recognize and get that out, as is international APCO. So if you have someone you would like to nominate, go on the website and find Teammates in Action. It's under our involvement page, and you will certainly find a way easily to nominate that person for recognition. Our first nominee and recognized, well, not our first nominee, but we have another one in the books. It's still waiting. It's pretty simple. There are some guidelines on there to follow. But our first recognized member is from Troop D, Jason Stevens, who did a great job with a lady who had been scammed out of about $9,300. And he went that extra mile to talk to UPS, get the delivery stop, and recover the lady's money before it got into the crook's hands. And to, of course, get that to the sheriff's office for criminal action, activity by the police department. So, really good job on his part, and he has been recognized by Missouri APCO and sent to national Pro Chart. And by the way, I'm already there. Pro Chart. Is that the name? If Pro Chart is professionalism, communication, human resource, training, and outreach for Missouri APCO. So if you would like to be involved in that, come talk to me at the meeting or anytime during the conference, and we will certainly get you involved. Thank you.
Okay, so the last thing that I have, I'm about to knock my chair over, so I'm going to move that before I trip over it. Last thing that I have is Missouri APCO has just very recently approved a new program. It's untitled as of now. We're going to let our membership choose the name of it. But what it is it is a critical incident response tote. So if an agency experiences a critical incident, whether that be an officer lost in the line of duty, whether that be a very traumatic 911 call that's taken the entire agency, this tote will be available at the regional level, and upon being notified, a regional coordinator will deploy that tote to the center. This tote is going to include things that are like non-perishable snack items, because we all like our snack items, right? But it can also include things like stress balls, activity books, stuff that you may want to de-stress with. So there's a big, long document, it's like 7 pages, that outlines our program. If you want to know more about it, please let me know. We've got the totes in here. We're accepting donations for the first round of totes. They'll be here all week, and then they'll go home with the regional ambassadors that are here. If you want to be the regional coordinator, it by default goes to the regional ambassadors, but there's an option for somebody to volunteer to be that regional coordinator. So it's not just falling to you, to our regional ambassadors. If you want to be that regional coordinator, come speak with us. We can get you plugged in. Totes are down here, and guess what? They're black and gold. So thin gold line works, right? So be thinking of a name, submit it to us. You might get lucky, and it might be your name. Any questions on that?
One thing Zach didn't mention in regards to that last one that I think is our intent is that the agency that receives that kind of care package in a tote, after things calm down, that hopefully they would restock that and make it available for the next agency that needs it. And then we as your MOAPCO board have set a limit of $50 so that if we get it back and we have to fill it, then we're not going to spend more than $50 of our association money to put stuff in that tote, make it ready for the next agency. So hopefully this will become successful as we move forward. So, any questions from anyone in regards to any of those topics that Zach covered? As you can tell, Zach wears multiple hats. He does a lot for us, so we appreciate you, Zach, very much.
Gemma was a large help with that
Thank you, Gemma.
regional tote thing.
Yeah,
Whatever it's going to be called.
They both worked hard on this, and they made the decision that the recommendation that they wanted our membership to actually come up with the name of this project. So we're going to use the website and Facebook or whatever else we can to get suggestions from you and name that program. And we haven't discussed what we would do for the person whose title was selected, but we'll do something to recognize you. All right, April and Matt. Conference update.
So I'll start off with an update from the spring conference from last year. Sorry, Sweet. Happy birthday, son.
I don't start. That since you're not going to be here tomorrow.
We make sure we'll send that to Virginia with you.
So much for sneaking out quiet.
So the last spring conference was probably our best conference as far as revenue. We made $28,581.12 off of that conference, which was amazing. That's not out of your guys' attendee cost. That's money coming back from sponsorship and from commercial partners. So that's why this fall conference we were able to keep it down and cheap, which is really nice. And I know that comes back to you guys, which is really appreciative. We did a lot of training for a really cheap price, and sometimes that doesn't happen when we get to go to conference. So right now, what we're looking at stat-wise for these numbers for this conference is we're at 243 for the full symposium conference with the director's workshop together. 243 includes 204 attendees and 39 commercial partners that are attending. Of course, you know, there's 20 booths in there, but there's multiple people coming to different booths, so that's kind of what it's looking like. For the director's workshop, we're at 80. With 39, that makes 119 total. So that's what our numbers are looking like for everything as it stands right now. You guys know, so I'll give you a couple of conference updates. Dinner's at 6:30 tonight over here in D&E, where you were at for the opening ceremony this morning. And there will be a cash bar. I know some people might want to know about that. There will be a cash bar that will be taking credit cards, so that is available to us. We will have a band tonight, and that is an ambassador. If you don't know where ambassador is, it's all the way in the catty corner over there by the actual bar. And that bar will be open and available for any kind of bar tabs or anything that anybody wants to put up while they're listening to the band. But that is the entertainment for tonight. The rest of the stuff is tomorrow morning. Registration is going to open at 7:30. Classes will start at 8:30, as well as the Power Up for the Directors Association workshop. It is 2 conferences in one at the fall conference, so we've got a director's workshop going on as well. Exclusive commercial partner time will happen for both. For the symposium, it happens before lunch. For the director's workshop attendees, it's going to happen after lunch. And then we'll have the 911 state board meeting tomorrow at 4:30. No room changes for tomorrow or Wednesday, unlike today where we just had this room change, and this is kind of tight in here, but it works. I wanted to to let you guys know that our bylaws are official for MPSCC. They've been turned in, we're waiting for attorney to finalize the paperwork. And then MPSCC will become official on its own. We currently reside under Missouri APCO for banking purposes and insurance purposes. But we will be able to get our own insurance, do our own banking account, which is nice. I know that those of you who've been attending these meetings for the last 3 years have been hearing us talk about this. This is a long process. But we are there. Budget-wise, I will not have a report for you about this current fall conference's budget until Wednesday. As with every fall conference, we usually are tighter on the fall conference because we don't have as many attendees and as many commercial partners. As you can tell, there's 20 booths. Normally at the spring conference, we're 40 to 50 booths. So we keep it low-key for a reason. And so the numbers will come in a lot lower than last spring. So I don't want you to think that we're going to make that much money off of it. All of that money goes back to the 3 associations. So the Directors Association, Missouri APCO, and Missouri Mina all got $9,527.04 each, which was awesome because that's money that goes back into special projects or anything that they need to do for you. There will be a call for papers opening and awards nominations opening for the spring conference. That should be opening sometime end of December, mid to end of December, first part of January. It just depends on whenever everything gets ready to go from the Education Committee and from the Ceremony Committee. But we'll put that out on the website, on Facebook, so if you're not following us on Facebook or Twitter, get on there, follow us, or follow us on the website. We will get into the new realm of doing things. We'll have an Instagram soon. I honestly feel like we should just get in a Snapchat world because that's where it's at, evidently. So I think that's where the millennials now, Zach. I don't know. Maybe you're getting old. I'm not sure. I'm just kidding. And the only other thing I wanted to say is if you had parking charges on your hotel registration, you should not have parking charges. You need to let me know. I've already told the hotel, we have one individual who's told me that they have parking charges on their registration. We contracted for 0 parking charges. So if you do have parking charges, you need to let us know so we can get that reimbursed back to you. And then there was a gray cardigan left in the ballroom at lunch this afternoon, and it will be the registration if somebody wants to go pick it up in the morning. Otherwise, any questions? Great. Thanks.
All right, thank you, April. April works really hard on running this conference and does a great job. Okay, now we're going to move on to kind of the joint between both of the chapters here and talk about the legislative updates. About time you showed back up, Sonny. We've got the legislative part. Sonny, and just you know, Sonny's moving on to other things and going to Virginia, and that is our loss and their gain for sure. But Sonny was very, very active and did a lot to help us move the legislation forward. We did finally get that bill passed, and of course then we had the Department of Revenue, a couple other state entities that kind of threw some monkey wrenches in there and made things harder than they needed to be. So then we had to pass a cleanup bill to kind of do some things. The good news is the sunset on the prepaid tax went away. That was one of the things we were always concerned about because our needs are not going to change. They're not going to go away. And so the certain senator that demanded that when we first passed the bill apparently forgot and then put in an amendment to get rid of it. And so we're all like, oh, sure, we can do that. So it worked out. It worked out well for us. So with that, there are a couple of issues that, and this is something that our state 911 board members and Sonny recently stepped down off of that board to clarify some things. One of those is that as part of that legislation, if you're going to go to a vote of your citizens to put this on the ballot for this funding, one of the requirements is before you're allowed to do that is you have to come to the state 911 board and give them a consolidation plan. And if you remember, one of the things we were successful in keeping is language in that legislation that allows you to do consolidation via backroom equipment and networking. So we're not talking about you have to close up somebody's shop and move in together, but we're talking about looking for opportunities that a lot of us already are doing anyway, which is how can we share some of these costs amongst ourselves. And if you have already achieved that, then that's what your plan says. So if, for example, you're in a county that has everything is consolidated, maybe you have 2 centers, but you share a CAD system, you share a radio system, you share the backroom 911 infrastructure, that's consolidated. And so that's what you would come to that board and let them know that. And then once they get that and you get their approval, then you can go back and put it on a ballot to go to your people to get that funding mechanism. So state 911 board members, that leave anything out in regard to that? Is that good? Okay. The next, I'm going to ask Sonny to talk about this. Opt in.
Opt in. Oh yeah, sure, opt in. So part of Senate Bill 291 that the governor passed this past summer is the opt-in opportunity. So you may recall that the way that 1456 went is that there was an option for and I'll make this brief if I can do it in 30 seconds or less, but there was an option for prepaid wireless fees in your county. If your county decided to do nothing, then they would automatically be opted into the program. However, if you decided to opt out, there were some steps that your county would go through, and we had a lot of discussion in the past 2 years about governance, who can make that decision, and then we had discussion about, well, if you do allow it to, if you do nothing, then you get opted in by default, and then if you start collecting those funds, who collects it? Is it the county? Is it DOR? Where does the money go? We know it ultimately goes to the Missouri Service Trust Fund, and through this process of exploring this with the colleagues on the board, we got to the point where we understood a little bit better, and I think I've communicated that to everybody in the room. But just know that we can have that discussion later tonight. If you have questions that are left over, you can call them out now, you can call them out later. Any one of the people that are on the 911 service board can help kind of walk through and let you know what we learned through the process. But with that said, we realized that there was some language, like Steve said, within the original bill that precluded some people from being able to utilize that prepaid fee. And so what that meant is they had to opt out. Well, there is a period now up until I think it's around the middle of November, I want to make sure I say that right, but around the middle of November, where you can opt back in. And so that's if a county has previously notified Department of Revenue that they're going to opt out and they've excluded themselves from this prepaid fee, they can choose to get back in. So there's some discussion there. I don't know how much we can do right now, other than just get the message out. Hey, there's an opportunity. Now remember, there's some with the fee, you get back a certain percentage to the county of origin. So it's not just about giving money to a state agency to do good things, right? It's not all just that trust factor, right? There's actually percentage, approximately 40 to 60%, depending on some ways that the board can set that in policy, but 40 to 60% will come back to the county of origin. So if I'm county X and I get a prepaid fee, I didn't do anything, it's opted in, and I'm collecting on every prepaid wireless in the county that sells, then I get 40% or so of that back each year and each month. And so that's a really nice thing. And so for some counties, that's not chump change, okay? That is a significant contribution to their bottom line. It could be anything as small as maybe you send one person to a conference if it's a small amount of money, to large initiatives. There are some pretty big funds being developed from that. So on the neighborhood right now, our collections are not public yet. I don't think, are they public? But I'm guessing somewhere in the neighborhood, so I can't even guess because it's not public. Okay, so I won't guess. I can tell you they're in the tens of thousands. And the fund will easily surpass $1 million, if not already. So I can say that safely. The reason why some of that information was embargoed is because the way the Department of Revenue shares that with the board members, we're very specific about what we can share because we're dealing with taxpayer-initiated payments. So to be careful about that. But that said, we're going to be fully transparent as a 911 service board, which I'm still until tomorrow. But at tomorrow's meeting, I think some of that will become public and we can start to say how we're getting those funds back. So anyways, all of that said, that if you're in a county that is opted out, you have a period to opt back in. There's some deliberate steps you need to take. That's about 18 or so in Missouri, 18 or 19 counties and cities that did that. That you may choose, you may elect to come back in. And then also remember that there's a grant fund. So what happens to the rest of those funds? Well, they go to the 911 Service Board. That's the Missouri Service Trust Fund is what we call that. And the trust fund that funds can be used for large projects or grants and loans to individual counties. So you want to make sure that if you're interested in getting a grant or loan, you may want to participate in the program, right? You don't want to be blocked out or excluded in the future, 3 or 4 years down the line when your county does need something and you haven't contributed to the fund. So make sure that you're included if you can. Certainly there's some philosophical comments there, so some of you may think, why would you opt out? There are some philosophical comments that, I don't want to make this political, but it comes down to, maybe our county already has enough 911 funding and we don't want to our citizens have to pay any more. So anyway, so there are some discussions, so don't beat up your colleagues too bad if they choose to opt out, but just know that that's out there and start socializing that and talking about it. Did I cover that well? Mm-hmm. Okay. Any questions about the opt-in that you haven't heard ad nauseum already? But okay. Well, come see me after, any one of the service board members, and we can walk you through the good things that we're doing. Next up was, I already talked about prepayment. Okay. Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah, when I said 40 to 60, 60%, so by statute, this isn't just numbers I'm throwing out, this is by statute or regulation, that 60% of the fees for a charter-based county will go back to the county of origin, okay? So 60% on a charter county. A non-charter county is a flex from 40 to, it's 40, it was set at 40, okay. Accordingly set 40, and by statute, the 911 Service Board, that authority, can set that per statute once a year for a certain amount for 2 years.
First 3 years.
So 2 more times, right? 2 more times.
Once every 3 years after that.
Okay, and Sheriff Corte, that is his corner, so he absolutely knows about that. So. Okay, and he's available too, so we can talk through these things if we need to. Anything else about the wireless fees? Sheriff Corte, did I leave anything else, sir? Okay.
Basically, you're good.
Basically, okay. I butchered it, but that's okay. I tried. Okay.
Make sure that your county has sent your ACH information to the board.
Yes, thank you. I'm glad you mentioned that. I should have had that on the notes. So one thing that we're trying to do as a service board is prepare to return those funds back to the county of origin. We want to get the money to the 911 service so that way in the county you can begin to use this for some good projects. The mechanics of doing that is you need to get an ACH form into our board to be able to disperse those funds. So we have somebody that's working on that, Dr. Ken Scott, on our 911 service board. So he'll be reaching out to the counties and working to facilitate a means to return those funds. Now this is not every 911 service board that's out there. It's not every 911 county. It's just one person in the county that has to do that. So just know that Dr. Scott's working on that. So if you get a phone call from the 911 service board, don't ignore it. He's trying to give you funds. so please work.
If I could elaborate on that,
yeah.
And I don't need a microphone. So he has reached out to everyone in the state, and apparently there was a little confusion because even though he's a board member, he's working off his personal email account. So apparently some county treasurer somewhere sent an email to all the other county treasurers saying, hey, watch out for this. It's coming from a private email account. It was Dr. Scott. He was reaching out. So I think that kind of got straightened out, but that's how that's going. I know there's, yes, Lisa.
I received several calls from different counties about that specifically, and there was confusion, and they wanted to make sure that this was an actual person. If you do get a question from your county commission, then you can always point them to somebody on the board to email. And also, I had a question just today about a sales tax county and who gets the money. If you're in a sales tax county with an elected board, that money will go directly to the elected board. So if you have an elected board and you feel like your county may be confused about where that money goes, then make sure that you reach out to us so that we can get the ACH to the actual board for deposit instead of the county.
Okay, I'm going to try to echo that back in a short, because we're on a Facebook Live, they may not have heard you. So I think if maybe the best way I can say that for clarity is that if you have questions regarding where the funds are going to flow to back to the county when we're trying to return that, we being the 911 Service Trust Fund, then I would say reach out to one of the 911 Service Trust Fund board members so that way they can walk you through that process. Okay, that was a good discussion. Anything else? Okay, I'm going to turn the corner here. So all of these things that we've done for 1456, Senate Bill 291, some other legislation that's been pushed through. There's a couple other neat things that my partners from the 911 directors would talk about. So we had a lot of legislative activity. All of that couldn't happen without all of you being involved, all of these guys, my colleagues being involved, but also we've had a lobbyist. So as you know, our associations have been paying a lobbying firm. So that's kind of next up on our agenda here is to talk about the Lobbyists Contract. I don't know who wants to jump in on that, but I'll let my colleagues do it. Yeah, that's just to kind of tee up the conversation is, each year we talk about, are we getting what we, pay for? Is this a good thing that we need to do? I think for us, what's on our minds is how much of our funds that you guys help us collect should we be spending as an association on the lobbyists? Now, it was a no-brainer conversation to have in the past few years because the value we've gotten out of, in this case, it's been Scott Penman's group, has been just, I can't even weigh the two because he's given way more to us than he ever had. Than we have ever given to him. His commitment from hours spent, financial commitments, way outweigh the contract value that we've had when we signed. And so just for clarity, the contract value currently is, make sure I get this right, is $30,000 per year annually, and which with each association paying a share of that. So, and associations of the partners are the 911 Directors Association, Missouri Mina, and Missouri AFCO. So that's about roughly $10,000 each. They pay that in, and each year we've done that. Although there's been some shares that have been a little different throughout the time. But so the question is for the group to discuss is whether or not we want to continue that contract, and whether or not, because it's an annual, and something that's on the table to kind of talk about is, why do we keep discussing it every year? Because it seems like a no-brainer, right? But we need to, so we want to hear what your guys' thoughts are, maybe hear from my colleagues on the board because they're much wiser when it comes to this. But also, do you want to keep talking about every year? Look for a 2 or 3 year contract. At one point we threw around 5 year. That felt a little long. I think we settled in on perhaps a 3-year contract as a proposal, and that makes a little bit more sense. That way we had kind of a steadfast program. We lock in a price, decide it. We're not going to decide it all today, but get it kind of decided, and then just stick with that. And that seems like a better approach, so you have some stability in the conversation. And so that's when obviously I won't be here to see that through, so I'll turn it over to my colleagues to talk about it.
And just so you'll know, one of the things that, one of the reasons why I think we still need our lobbyists is we need somebody to listen when we have somebody that decides, you know what, I don't like this 911 funding thing that's going on, so I'm going to introduce a bill to kill it, to try and do away with their fund. And so having somebody at the Capitol that would hear that coming up and could let us know that, hey, you guys need to get out, go knock on doors and call people, let them know that this is not acceptable, that kind of thing can happen. Also, there are some other things I mentioned earlier. Lisa and I both have a passion for training, and we want to see those training standards changed and corrected and find some funding mechanisms. Well, we're going to have to do that through legislation. And so having a lobbyist there will allow us to do that. One of the other things that I would like to see us do is in the last few months, several states at the state level have passed legislation recognizing all of their public safety communicators as public safety and not clerical workers. So I'd like to see Missouri join that list. That's something that our lobbyists would help us with that. Now, having said that, that's a lot of money every year. It's your money, it's our association money, and we want to make sure that we're not just spending this because we all think it's a great idea. We want to get your input. And it's significant because, as Sonny said, Scott Penman is worth a lot more than what we've paid. And if we were a corporation, I can guarantee we'd be paying at least 3 times as much as we've been paying, if not more. And what he does is he charges those rates for those corporate clients, and then when he finds causes that he believes in, he charges a much lower price and then puts his passion into that. That's what he did for us. And so several years ago, I had a couple of different lobbyists and actually a couple of elected officials that said, if there's anybody that's ever gonna be able to get this done, he is the only guy that's gonna be able to do it. And guess what? He did it. And so we passed the first tax, if I'm remembering correctly, in 25 years in Missouri. You know, we are
Fee.
it's a fee.
It's a
whatever.
fee,
But it is something that a lot of us, you know, we fought for this. We've been fighting for this for 20 years. And it's finally accomplished. It wouldn't have been done without him. So that's my 2 cents.
So I'm kind of new to this, and I haven't been involved in a lot of the conversations or negotiations with the Penman lobbyist group. I will say I know that they are asking for a 3-year commitment possibly. That's something that we maybe like to negotiate, $30,000 each year. We did ask for a possible reduction in that fee. That is not something that is possible, so I just want you guys to be aware of that. What I'm looking for as your Mina board member is I want some guidance from you as to what your thoughts are on this process. Do we spend the $10,000 or, you know, do we not? Because it's, like they said, it's your money. So, Zim?
You kind of touched on it. So we would stay at that dollar value, even though we may have a different angle now in going with trade instead of just legislation, a big legislative piece. It'd be more, let's do trade, let's do other stuff. So it's the same 30,000 price range.
I'll let these guys answer it because they have been in conversations with them. I just began this process.
Yes.
That's what I want to hear.
Then yes, 3-year contract, same money. We never got anything done without them. So we said we certainly need somebody to stay there and keep our interest.
And that's what a few at the table had said.
We don't wanna be the last
if,
on the list.
If we don't have someone listening, someone will try to, well, 911's getting something they shouldn't have, or try to change it or mess with it, and then we wouldn't know what the heck is going on. So,
And to reiterate a little bit of what Steve already said, the value of the service that we've received from Scott in these fights and the number of hours that he has put forth to us is a huge discount. You know, I don't think we could have, if it was a regular client, it would have been at least 3 times what he charged us. And my personal opinion is we're still getting a good value out of this even now.
Lisa?
He was involved in getting the loggers passed too, right? Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, I was kind of saving the thunder on that for 911 directors, but you're right. So there's some big news there, right? So that was substantial.
And I also wanted to say, I was not a believer in this first bill being fixed, right? I thought it's not going to be that easy to get it fixed the next year, and it was. And that was pretty impressive to me, you know, that they were able to do that. So I agree with you, Scott.
You're exactly right. To the point that on the last day of the session, he was able to go talk to enough people to convince them in the House to vote down their own substitute bill and then vote on the Senate bill as it came to them and accept it as is. And everybody I've talked to down there at the Capitol said they have never seen that happen. So normally the House and the Senate, if they come up with their own versions and stuff, they stick to their guns and they try and get stuff passed so that they can go to conference and work out their differences. And it was down to the end of the wire when we got kind of to that point. And there was a couple of people that were concerned about a couple of little things in there that they were going to want to debate it and drag it out. And somehow he was able to go convince enough people. And so to have the House actually vote down their own substitute bill and then just accept the Senate bills again, that was pretty much a miracle. So the value that we get is tremendous. A couple years ago, we honored Scott for all the work they were doing for us, and His wife came to the banquet with him, and I actually got the privilege of sitting next to her and talking for a little bit. And she told me specifically what I mentioned earlier, that is exactly what he does. Is he charges his full value to those corporate clients so he can find causes he believes in. And we're not the only ones. There are other causes he does this for. And he puts his heart in and his soul into that and goes and works. And he has spent money out of his office to do things to the point of where the $30,000 that we're paying, he didn't make anywhere near that amount. And so it's a good deal, and this is a way for us, if we do a multi-year contract, to lock in that price. And then by doing that, anything that comes up, whether it be somebody that's attacking what we do, the funding we already have in place, somebody wants to disband the 911 state board, anything along those lines, or as we come forward with new things that we want to see passed, we want to do, he's going to be our guy. And we already know what kind of product he's going to provide. So we're not really looking for a motion or anything today. We just wanted to discuss this as an informational item, give you guys time to bring forward what you think, and make sure that for the MWAPCO members, make sure you come talk to us. If you have strong opinions either way, make sure to let us know.
What's his contract up, Steve?
His contract expired last month.
So do we need to act soon?
This month, I think.
It's a yearly basis.
I've been discussing it, but we need to do it.
And it's fine, for the Mina members, and if you guys want to make a motion, I'm all game for that, because that gives me something to go by to. I just want to note that, we have $27,000, and that's $10,000 of ours. So just know that, because there are some Mina guidelines that tell you what percentage you can spend, and we're getting really close to that. So we just need to figure out a way to keep our funds up so that we can meet this mandate in, the next 2 years as well.
Does the contract lay out like how many hours he has to spend, or what are the details of that? Because what if all of a sudden you find something else that, I'm not saying I don't trust him, I'm just thinking, what is it, does he have to give us so many hours? What is it?
Yeah, so at this point, the last revision of the contract didn't have that, but so as you open a contract, discussion of terms, when we look at 3 years, I think that would be reasonable. I think what we're having trouble describing when it comes to value too, which I know you know, is it's almost pro bono work. It's not, because the 30% is significant for an organization our size, right? That's really significant. It's probably much the same for our partners. It's a bigger commitment to 911 directors, right? But so it's not, again, it's significant. And so that's why we want to talk about it, but it's almost pro bono work that he's doing for us, and that's what I heard the term thrown around 3 times the amount. I think it's much more than that. It would be inappropriate for us to ask him what his contract billing is of a corporate customer, but it's definitely going to be way more than what we're at. So do you put a minimum time amount on a pro bono contract? That's the part that, from a terms perspective, we would all be about that, because that's the way we think on the business side, right? But then how do you do that without offending somebody that's doing pro bono work for you? And so that's the difficult thing. But certainly, I'm glad you brought that up, and if that's the sentiment, I think any of our colleagues here would be glad to have that discussion. So, good question. Do we have more questions?
I was just going to comment. Having spent a lot of time, especially the past 10 years in Jeff City, working on not just this, but other projects for sheriffs and everybody else. It's the benefit, it's hard to dedicate hours when you're working with lobbyists, because those guys, they're in the building every day talking to different folks about everything for all their different clients. And they're there, and I've been in offices, where a lobbyist is talking about one thing, and the legislator knows that the same lobbyist represents another group. They'll ask them questions about their other projects too, even if it's not, currently, one of the bills currently under discussion that day. So it's kind of hard. I'd say it's probably hard for them to put an actual hour amount on what they do, because, they've got their clients and they're in there every day working for their clients. They might be considering legislation for this one client this day, and the next week they're working on legislation for another client. But those guys, they're always talking back and forth. Guys and gals are always talking on behalf of their clients when they're up there. So, I know what you're thinking, because I'm one of those people, make sure you get your value for your buck, but I can, over the years work with Scott for them. We've got lobbyists for the Sheriff's Association. We also got lobbyists for the, for MAC. Work with those guys, and they're always working on different things, and it's just, it's hard to put an hour figure on it because, those folks are up there working every day for all their clients.
It's not billable like an attorney.
It's not billable like an attorney. Yeah, they don't mark down, okay, I put 15 minutes for this. I talked to this guy for 15 minutes. I talked about 3 of my clients' projects. He doesn't boom, 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 mark down 15 minutes for each one. You know what I'm saying? So, but I mean, I get it. Everyone wants to make sure we're getting our value for what we're doing. So.
Good question is here.
My question is to the treasurer of Mina. So, if we do approve the $10,000 for the renewal, will you have enough in the bank for Mina to meet the legal aspects of national insurance requirements?
At this time we would, this year. However, if it's $10,000 per year, then unless we figure out some way to raise funds, we would not be able to.
Does the conference not provide enough funds for that to help?
Just depends on what the conference makes. So, because we're right at that 30,000, and that's like that 30%, and that's where we're at. So if we fall short, then we would fall short.
I think we're doing ourselves in Missouri a disservice by not having a lobbyist representing all 3 associations.
Has it always worked out monetarily over what we've had them for the last 5 years? Have we always made enough to do it?
We paid less a few years. We
And
didn't pay our fair share.
also, and then just to add to that, that we've also asked other associations to pay, to help. Like I believe it was the EMS Association helped us 2 years ago fund that. So, and their office, and their office has been very nice of an understanding of allowing payments from third parties to complete the contract terms. And it had waited. I think last time they waited up to 8-9 months for us to raise some funds from another association. So, and outside the 3 kind of ones. So, and remember that just a few years ago, thanks to the work of many in this room, for you guys, you brought together almost 100 stakeholders that were not 911 into this effort, right? So Lisa will remember that when I remember when we had over 100, right? Pretty amazing when you think about it, the stakeholders that were signed on. They were all in the mindset of what April said, that they would fund it however, so they'll pass the hat, so to speak, and raise that 30,000.
One thing too is we don't have to do a 3-year contract. If the membership decides that they were more comfortable maintaining an annual contract, that's something that we can talk to Scott Penman about doing. So
By doing that, there may be an opportunity for it to be more money later on down the road.
there is. It's a balancing act because we don't know what the future is going to be for us monetarily coming in, but at the same time it does lock us in for those 3 years of that rate, and there'll be no increase.
Is the majority of the people that are working on this comfortable that if our association and or Nina doesn't have the money to be able to go out and find, are we comfortable enough to think that we're going to be okay for that $30,000 commitment for each year?
I think I'll be okay.
Yeah.
Sorry for that.
His caddy will make up the difference.
Oh yeah. Hey.
No,
I mean,
that's not what I
And he's in that Rich, Virginia.
I don't know if
So
it's
moved.
my tenure, but the Directors Association is kind of in the same boat as far as money goes, correct?
Yes, I mean, I didn't want to weigh in. I was actually watching on Facebook Live up in the room, so very convenient, thank you. But I heard the discussion, I wanted to go down to be part of that. There is no question about the value that we are receiving from Scott Penman. I know that's been echoed, and also my party say the same thing. Not only did he do the issues that we brought to the forefront, we did have loggers, that's something that we were working on. And loggers really have their own lobbyists, but Scott was definitely that back channeling those discussions. And I want to make sure we recognize that as well. There is definitely value of him. We understand the needs, or he understands our needs. The commitment on the funds is the thing in question, and I think we all need to make a decision moving forward. Are we gonna continue to add additional legislative tasks on his plate? And if that's the case, then what we're getting is a phenomenal deal. Are we interested in having him be up there to listen to us in case something comes up? Is that the price point that we're at? Is that what we're looking for? We did have a conversation about negotiations that was reduced, or we asked for it to be reduced, and for rightfully so, he articulated the reasons why he felt comfortable at the price point. So, to answer your question, Becky, price increasing, and quite frankly, I think it would. His firm is a phenomenal firm up there right now. He's been able to pass something that hasn't happened in 25 plus years. It's a big deal. And I think that's something that we do take a risk on if we decide that we want to do 1 year. Play devil's advocate, it's $30,000 a year, guys. That's money that from associations, we can take a look at, and there's other opportunities as well, for spending that. So definitely discussion worthy topics and points.
This would give us the opportunity with MPSCC that it has provided the money for them basically for the last 5 years. And that should show us the value, not only just the educational value, which is huge, but the value of making sure that we have people here at this convention, that it is full, that it is over full because of the benefits that we're getting out of it monetarily and educationally. So, when we go back, we're having it in the spring, we need to have as many people here because if we don't have numbers correct, April, we can't provide the money for this.
The money from MPSCC doesn't go back into anything for MPSCC except for what we have to have in the city to continue to move forward with contracts, which is $9,000, free from each association. All of the rest of the money goes right back to them, and that money sits there from conference to conference to make sure that we can maintain all of the bills that we have currently, like our budgeting for QuickBooks and anything that comes up from the hotel that we have to pay in advance, like a deposit. Otherwise, all of that goes back to the associations. We don't keep any of that for anything else. None of our committee members get paid. We're all volunteer. So just so you guys know that's our commitment to you guys, that the MPSCC money goes back to the associations for whatever is necessary. And if you deem, and I'm a member of all 3 associations, and as a director, I deem a lobbyist necessary for Missouri. My senator, who's no longer my senator, was involved in the city whenever they had their own lobbyists that went and tried to completely close down a 911 PSAP. My senator was one who was not interested. He turned, but he was not interested in us doing anything with 911 for funding in the state of Missouri until we had consolidation across the state of Missouri. So he was a no every time, and he was the one who everybody listened to. So he continued to keep us down for over 20 years when we tried to pass legislation. And so now we're at a point where we realize it can just take one person to turn us down on something that could continue to progress Missouri 911 for years and years to come. We can't keep up with the national side if we're not doing something in our own state. But it just takes one person who doesn't like 911, and we've seen a lot of them, to hurt us. And we don't have somebody looking out for our interests and out there on the forefront who can talk the talk like Scott, or have people who are respected and appreciated like they are, and who can walk those halls and know who they need to talk to. We're just hurting ourselves.
And Becky, back to your original question, as far as comfort level goes, I can guarantee you that as long as I'm on the board and when I go off the board as a member of all 3 associations, if we find ourselves at that point, I absolutely will do my best to go out and find some of those other associations, which we did do a couple years ago when we didn't have quite enough funding, and we went and found a couple of different EMS associations and a fire chiefs association that all kicked in certain amounts, and that made up the difference for what we did. And so that I can say I'm comfortable that we will work hard to make that happen.
If I'm a member of both organizations, can I make a motion? Oh, for God. As a member of Boapco and Mina, I make a motion that we retain Scott Penman as our lobbyist that represents our 2 associations in legislative efforts for a 3-year contract locked in at $30,000 a year.
That's
Okay, we have a motion and several seconds for associations, but Bonnie's asked for a show of hands, as a vote.
All in favor?
All in favor, raise your hands.
Try to by association.
If you're a member of both associations, raise your hand now.
Yeah,
Okay.
one hand for each.
All right, anybody who's a Monina member only, let them know.
No.
I don't think there, no, if you're Monina only.
For yes.
I'm not sure there is anybody that's, is there anybody that's a Moapco member only? So raise your hand, so. All right. Is there anybody in the room that is not in favor of this motion? Raise your hand.
Everybody go like this. Everybody got
All right, the motion passes, and so your boards will move forward with Scott Penman for a 3-year contract at the $30,000. And we will work with the Directors Association, who doesn't get to vote till tomorrow.
It was Alan.
Alan and Steve Beghorn, I think, and Jeff.
Take your pick.
We went with Alan.
We're going with Alan on that one, so.
Yeah. He was the last.
I haven't seen it.
Okay. All right, we had an item on here from the State Fair, but the person that was going to do that report is not here with us, so we're gonna.
I didn't know she was gonna be here.
It went well.
All right, so there's your report. State Fair went well.
It went well, but Christian County, the young lady that did it this year, she is no longer with us.
Okay.
So
in other words, we need a volunteer for next year.
we need a volunteer. I don't mind even if it's somebody else to help lead the way to make sure that things get done, because we have the stuff. Pettis County was great. They helped us out tremendously.
James always has.
She's
Yeah,
at Grandview, but I don't know the commitment she would have. So, you know, I would like to see us try to find somebody, and that way we can work on what we
It does take someone to kind of organize this and put these things together. So if you're interested, come and see any of these board members and let us know. And if we can get 2 or 3 of you to work together, we'd be happy to do that as well. Does anybody have any new business? James.
I want to thank the 911 Service Board as one of the charter people that did the e-device tax. Sonny, I tore up your phone. I apologize. And again, our lobbyists, I can't tell you how many times phone calls I had with him, emails. Dr. Scott, the talks that he had with DOR, you cannot imagine the conversations that went back with the Department of Revenue. Who was going to collect? At one point, they said that the counties were responsible to let every vendor know they needed to collect the tax. I don't know who to call. It was just crazy. Anyway, it's been fixed. I appreciate it. I just didn't want that going said. I do appreciate it.
Very good. All right, anything else, Alan?
Yeah, if I could real quick, regionalization, tomorrow at the state meeting, hopefully we'll get the sales boundaries approved officially. We did surveys out across the state on partnerships. We did the regionalization outreach meetings across the state. So, you know, the boundaries have not been set officially yet. That's in front of the board tomorrow. I have that map that I'm going to put it out here in front of the registration desk. I'll go get it here in a few minutes. And if anybody has any questions on that or concerns, you need to let us know. And we can address those. But hopefully get that approved tomorrow. And then I think tomorrow or Wednesday at 2 is a session just on regionalization discussions on the makeup of that, the committees and the objectives and so on and so forth.
Then there's a service board meeting tomorrow.
The
Here.
board meeting is tomorrow, but then
Yeah.
the session on regionalization discussion is on Wednesday at 2.
Wednesday at 2. Okay, got it.
All right, anything else to come forward? All
I
right,
make a
then.
motion to adjourn.
Before you take that motion, point of personal privilege, this last meeting is ever going to be in. I want to take a moment to say thank you to Sonny.
Happy birthday.
We'll talk soon. Happy birthday.
Thank you. I got no speech other than say it's all you guys. It's what we've accomplished together. Because We've got some great colleagues up here and what you guys have done and all that time in the state capitol. So just don't forget it. So just be there to keep going. That's it.
Thank you, Simon.
Thank
All
you.
right, and dinner starts in about 15 minutes, so we have a
And do we
motion
know
to
what's on the
adjourn.
menu?
Food.
We have urban crusted chicken, we have pork loins and cod, and then all those vegetables and stuff that go with it.
Awesome.
Eat or go hungry.
All right, Alan seconds, all in favor, get up and leave.
Over.